Proprio come i bambini, più chiudono le porte, più la mia curiosità cresce, più la mia immaginazione ha sete. E quindi direi che chiusura significa per me stare aperti. Da buona vergine, nata in settembre, sono un po' quel tipo di persona a cui piace avere le cose abbastanza sotto controllo. Quindi il fatto che attraverso la pellicola la fotografia non dipenda solo da me, significa anzitutto una forma di cura nei miei riguardi verso me stessa. Poi fotografia analogica significa per me coesistenza. Sulla pellicola infatti abitano i chimici prima di tutto, ma anche i batteri, la polvere, paesaggi, storie, umani e non umani. Insomma, un perfetto esempio di comunità. E io credo che in questo momento abbiamo proprio bisogno di istituire nuove comunità e di fare più comunione con l'altro. E poi, infine, ma non meno importante, io amo sviluppare, faccio praticamente tutto da sola, anche se a volte in maniera poco ortodossa, però diciamo che la magia dello sviluppo è la pratica più vicina alla stregoneria che io conosca.
Nowadays, the need to shoot on film personally comes more from a need to keep going with with the process that I've been developing across the past 10 years, where I've been mainly using film for my projects, and that has become ingrained in my own way of depicting a subject. This carries on with itself a lot of information, such as the idea of a thoughtful gaze, more pondered, more considered, and like more less impulsive. Although there is an impulsive element to it, but indeed being it a financially and technically more difficult and less immediate process that of shooting on films, it nevertheless it carries with itself a different attitude to photography. Hence, for example, the need for the subjects to be, or the light to shoot on film is, for me, part of a reflective process that informs both the subjects of my work as well as my aesthetic. Um, the gaze is necessarily led into a more thoughtful process because it is an expensive practice, that of shooting film, firstly, as well as you just simply can shoot less and you can't look back at what you've just shot. So that basically leads you to be more reflective on what are the subjects of your choice, the moments in which you take photographs, the light, and that all belongs part of the photographic process, which in comparison to the digital use of cameras, hence the need for the moment I choose to capture, as well as the subjects and the number of images I dedicate to each subject, is where it's much more affected by by shooting on film, because it becomes something that I have to consider deeply, and because I can't look it back, for example, because I can't look back at the images, because I can't, because one roll of film allows me with my cameras to shoot 10 pictures, and if I don't want to lose the moment, I have to make sure that within the 10 pictures I am taking all I need, because when the moment you are loading the film, you are sort of losing the moment, you are losing that energy that you have created, which you can rebuild. But there is a lot of this elements that move in between an esoterical and a technical and logistical issue, which you have to somehow constantly negotiate with by shooting on film. And this, I think, carries an element of magic to it, which I can't really grasp with using digital cameras. And nevertheless, it is a political choice as well nowadays, because you are choosing not to become part of a way of in using photography in a more immediate, thoughtful way.
I think I was born in a period where the concept of photography was already evolved from its original one, and I think that this evolution went faster and faster by the time. This made something really positive, which is that it made photography accessible to everyone. But I think that this accessibility has from another side bad aspect, which is that it disvalues in a certain way the original concept of photography. I think that it's also from that I felt a need to discover, to explore, to find out more about film photography. That's why I started filming. I started shooting with films. Because I was finding myself sometime shooting 200 pictures, and at the end my selection was really limited to 2 or 3 pictures. This was something that was not making me feel too much comfortable while I was shooting, and so I think I found in film photography a kind of meditation that made me find my balance in photography in general, which is something that I really appreciated. And about this project, it's something that I really like. It's a project that I really believe in, and I think I took part to this project to be part of a movement, a positive movement that made art accessible to everyone, even in this condition nowadays that are like not the best. And so I think I participated also to celebrate the beauty of my city, of my beautiful city, and maybe just to give a moment of pleasure to whoever was passing by the street and found himself looking at some picture and having just good energy going inside.
Social networks are going crazy, I will say. The photographic medium is part of what I will now define with an ontological book title, The Maximum Exasperation of the Ego in the Use of Photography in Social Networks. I appreciate photographers, artists who do their work with dedication and taste, and not because it's cool to have a film camera. The right amount of curiosity and something to say put an artist in a position to ask questions and find answers in the most congenial way. Life is not a support for art, it's the opposite. At least, this return to film means leaving a chemical trace of what has been done and experienced, no binary code.
In realtà da quando è iniziata la pandemia ho prodotto tantissime cose e invito tutte le persone che hanno la fortuna di, di poter usufruire di strumenti che avvicinano all'arte, di goderne, di, di ringraziare per questo, perché l'arte cura, questa non è o se è una frase fatta, un luogo comune, è sicuramente un luogo molto bello da abitare.
The closure of the cultural spaces and the restrictions applied because of the pandemic has certainly led us to rethinking and to review our ways of channeling culture and personal interests. Indeed, I don't think we have been deprived, because our main source of information is nowadays the the internet, basically. But I think that what we've been lacking the most through this with this closure, it's been that possibility to interact. That we've been lacking this element of serendipity, which is that energy that allows us to find things when we're not looking for, and hence we have somewhat reduced nearly to none the possibilities of capturing and finding out new things which we wouldn't know. And we've been definitely been reducing this possibility of dialogue and coming across new uh, threads that may become an influence and may become the seed for new projects in the future. The word closure to me has been a word that I have tried not to slip into my mental diary. I've actually, since the beginning of the pandemic, I've tried to refuse every sort of self-closure, and in respecting, obviously, ethically, what was allowed and not allowed to do. But somewhat I have decided not to close within myself and try to be out as much as possible, and regaining my confidence and interest in the public places, in the public spaces, as well as like cycling and gathering with like meeting friends in distance, and traveling also, because of my work allows me to travel a lot. So I didn't really fit the narrative in terms of closure, but also I think a lot of my need to move more during the pandemic came from the self-preservation need that somehow aroused myself, and I strived not to let these restrictions fall into my life too much. So I'm not the best person to describe what closure meant to me, but definitely to me had an opposite effect, to disobey and open up and go out and push myself out, and just like grasp that much open and air and space as I could, which maybe before I wasn't even considering.
So it's clear that the period is it's really not the best for in general, for artists and for culture, like in the specific case. But I have to say that I consider myself really lucky, because I live in a city as Marseille, which has always been really alive, and that never really stopped. Like, of course, we had a lot of limitation, and especially the first lockdown, we really felt this closure. But I have to say that after that, since here there are a lot of small artists, small realities, small art center, atelier, like there's always been the need and really the willing of continue and to fight and to keep doing our art. Like me personally, I work in a art center that kept doing exposition, of course, in a limited way, but anyway, we kept working. And me personally, like I have an exposition that I report since October 2020, and I report it because I really want to do it in a specific place, which is a bar. So like right now, no possibilities, but I know one day I will do it, and I'm using this period like to develop more and more and more my project, and I'm sure that in the moment where I will have the possibility to do it and I will see my picture exposed in that place, it will be even more amazing. It will be incredible. So yes, I experienced this closure in this period, but I kept myself really motivated, and I have to say thank you also to the people who surround me, because they really keeps giving me energy, positive energy, and so nice.
In relation to the pandemic factor, the total closure of the exhibition spaces, as the clubbing scene or places where you can go to hear or experience a live concert, has created a strong social split. Many of us identify with those places where we have left a trace of what has been artistically created, having passed right there, from there, with no holes barred. Therefore, closure is not a factor to be underestimated. We have to increase our spirit of adaptation. The closure is not about socially active plays. It certainly has led many artists and ordinary people to come to terms with themselves, these cautious social relations to fail, alienating us much more, and so living more and more through social media.
Immagino delle esposizioni all'aria aperta, nelle strade, nelle città, ma anche nei luoghi, diciamo, più oscuri della città, nei quartieri più oscuri della città, ma anche nei boschi o vicino al mare. Insomma, delle occasioni per poter stare a contatto con quello che noi crediamo sia diverso, che sia straniero, che sia estraneo.
I think that after having experienced the pandemic this past year, we have definitely been reconsidering the importance of the public space, and I think this will definitely be mirrored in our habits somehow 360 degrees, and majorly in the ideas of art display. Although I think there is also a strong need for the people to go back and get back their connections with museums, with galleries, and with the arts in general, with music, with like a real life experience. I think there can still be this experience has somehow laid down a path for, and I hope that the public spaces will become part of an active part of the artistic display, and perhaps turning the urban environment into an open display.
So I think that exhibition spaces are linked to art, and art is something that is constantly changing. So a new idea of exhibition spaces, I think it will come from the future needs that art in general, contemporary art, will claim. Right now, anyway, we have a really extended concept of exhibition. We have interactive exhibition, street exposition, online exhibition, exposition in art center. I don't know, I think we already kind of developed this concept, and I don't know exactly how we can reform it right now. I just really hope everything won't be only online, but that they will that we will find a way to make the contact between art and the human being even more closer.
As far I'm concerned, the exhibition spaces must be imagined as we have always lived them. If the COVID continues to grip us physically and psychologically, the only things we can do is to keep amount of the people who will be able to access these spaces, so as not generate a constant spread of the virus. Is not just about seeing an exhibition from your smartphone or tablet. I repeat, I find it very sad, and I have the perceived awakening to the use of art, but maybe I'm wrong.